WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. I want to thank you for being with us today. We're coming to you from Star Communications Channel 16. WCLN Radio. Also, there's a summation of this show in the Sampson weekly newspaper. We appreciate you being with us today. I want to thank you for your comments from our show last week and your suggestions for future shows. Continue to send those to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. weshouldknowedu@gmail.com, or you can continue to send us notes or letters or cards to Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. That's We Should Know, Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. Today we're kind of switching gears on a subject. We're talking with two folks that is very knowledgeable and has been fighting the war on something called addiction, particularly opioids, for a number of years now. Our first guest is Eddie Barnes. Eddie is the Outreach Connections pastor of Clinton Community Church. Born right here in Clinton and raised in Clinton, he's a certified recovery coach, and he's one of the teachers and leaders of the local Celebrate Recovery program. Eddie, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
The other person, someone that I have known for some time, and I'll just tell folks he's a great leader. He's a person that takes on something, and he's always doing something for the betterment of mankind, and that's B.G. Kennedy. B.G. works at Sampson Community College. He's a human services educator, education instructor. The important thing with B.G., he's also chairman of the Sampson County Substance Abuse Coalition. Eddie, B.G., thank you for being with us. Your journey in this recovery and this addiction issue has been one that you've looked at the community and said, we need to do something. And you've engaged in that way back, as I recall, when the Substance Abuse Coalition was the Meth Task Force. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, J.W. I had worked with you some on the gang conference, and then we kind of segued into working together on the meth, Sampson County Meth Coalition.
You've had I think a huge impact because you're a very organized person. You've been able to push forward some agendas under your leadership. There's been kind of a reformation and restructuring of that organization, which is, I think, as I recall during that period of time, it kind of puts us more at focus with what's going on in the addiction world.
Yes, sir. You know, we had it labeled the Meth Task Force, and then recognized that there were many other substances that were affecting families. So we did change the name of the Meth Task Force to the Substance Abuse Coalition for that purpose, to include all substances that are potentially abused and which affect families and the community.
When we talk about this, I want to kind of start out with an observation. And I recall, I think it was 2016, the study was done, and there was a huge recognition of increase of opioid use in the United States. And as I recall, again, reading that, there was like 25 cities that came out the top cities in the United States in not only using but opioid abuse, but actually opioid death. And 4 of those was in easy driving distance. And one of them was Wilmington, Jacksonville, Fayetteville, and I think, as I recall, the other was Hickory, North Carolina. When you heard that and when you saw that information, what struck you as a person that is an action person, as a person that wants to make a difference in people's lives? What struck you as, what do I need to do? What should I do next? And I'll start with you, Eddie.
For me, overall, to see we're in the middle of those things, talking about Wilmington and Fayetteville and things of that nature, and how we can be a hub to that. But not only that, from a person of faith, man, since 2016, I think we've seen 3 people that is connected to our church we've buried from opioid overdose. In some form or fashion, if it be a nephew, if it be a son, a grandson, or even someone that was trying to get their life in order. And it breaks our heart because we go, this isn't an issue that's touching just big cities. This isn't an issue that's far-reaching, that's over there on the West Coast or way up north or down in Florida. This is an issue that's right around the corner. And we had several family members from different people asking for our help to help some of their kids out. And we saw a need. And for us as a church, for me as a person that's dealt with addiction, not opioid addiction, but alcohol addiction, I saw, there's a potential to change lives. And for us, we wanted to be on the forefront personally of the ability to change lives in a what would be considered a small town, but you got 421 running straight through. You got 40 right there by. You've got all these corridors to see the drug not just run through us, but to get caught here. But it's not like it's something that's going on the back streets. That's the issue. Opioids isn't something that is this dark thing off to the corner that no one knows about. It's in your pharmacy. It's at the hospitals. It's in your grandma or grandpa's medicine cabinet, or even in yours. If it depends on if you've had surgery or some kind of chronic pain. And the thing is it has to be fought on all fronts. We have to notice it, and when we see these statistics coming out and we see these numbers coming out before us, we can't turn a blind eye. We can't be silent, and we can't just ignore the needs of the people around us. It gets to the point where we get scared. We don't know what to do, or we try to ignore it and go, you know what? It's not a problem we have. When in reality, it is. Wilmington, Fayetteville. You don't have these places that are. They're populated, but not overly populated. They're just average towns to us. You know what I mean? I went to Wilmington several times. When I was in high school, I'd drive myself there and just hang out. To say that there's an issue of not just use but death. We can't be silent, and for me, it was just seeing what the need was, answering the call of that need, connecting with wonderful people like BG. Had no idea that something like the coalition was going on. We were just doing our Celebrate Recovery thing, and now we find other like-minded individuals to go, well, let's confront this. Let's talk about this, and let's confront it on many different views. It's not just us going, hey, let's tell people to stop, but it's us going, let's educate the people that are hurting from the same situation. And that's the things that we try to see is how do we educate the aunt, the mom, the dad, the grandma, the grandpa. How do we not just touch the people that are struggling with addiction, but also the people that are being hurt, that aren't even, doing the addiction. They're just tied to the addiction. And I think that's the big things for the coalition. That's the big things for the people that want to help. I guarantee you, probably almost every person you meet, just like cancer, where I know someone that's been touched by cancer, I guarantee you I can walk down the street and talk to people, and they have a cousin, they have a nephew, they have a brother, a sister, they have someone that struggled with this. And it can't be silent. We're loud and boisterous about, hey, we should find a cure for cancer, but when it comes to a mental illness or addiction, that's the black sheep. Let's be ashamed of it. And we can't do that. Let's educate them. Let's help them, because when you bring things to the light, that's when you can finally see the answers that are in front of you. So,
BG, as the chair of the Substance Abuse Coalition here in this area, and I think we go back, I can remember when you were at Duplin County schools and then Sampson County schools, now at community college. But you've always had an interest in making some kind of positive difference. For the past few years, you've been chairman of this coalition. What do you look at that and think, what have we done? What do we need to do? Talk about that from what you see, because that coalition is made up by so many different folks with different backgrounds, with different purposes, from public health to folks like Eddie that's with with faith-based coalitions and Celebrate Recovery, to police chiefs and others that's involved in that. Talk to us about what you see there.
I'll back up for just a moment too,
Sure.
JW, and segue off of what Eddie said. Opioids touches everyone. It used to be that we thought of it as someone else's problem. But all of us have a story and a connection. And so as we began working with the coalition, and looking at things that we could do to make a difference, we thought about education, training, support of parents and family members who are struggling with addiction. One of the things that I think is most important that we've accomplished, and I don't say we have accomplished it, but we were part of it, and that is bringing naloxone to the local communities, to the police officers. Naloxone is available for family members of those who have medications that are potentially dangerous, opioid medications, but also family members who are worried about their loved ones. You can go to the local drugstore and purchase naloxone now. That wasn't the case a couple of years ago, and I think we did have a part to play in that.
Do you see, BG, when the president stepped up and said this is a national health care crisis, did you see that as kind of a turning point for the attention to be focused toward opioid addiction, that things were going to change? Did your coalition go, whoa, this is big news?
Absolutely, and I thought, this will be the point that we see the death rate decline. We haven't seen that yet, so there's so much to do still. And again, education, I think, is key. Prevention is key. And having activities like Clinton Community provides and support services like Celebrate Recovery to give young folks things to get involved in that make a big difference. That will matter long term. But absolutely, President making that announcement helped.
Well, one of the things that you've got coming up too, and I want to get this in the first segment too, is the 27th of this month of February. You've got an event coming up here in Clinton. It's a pretty huge event. Tell us a little bit about that before we have to go to our first break.
Yes, sir. It's the Opioid Summit. It is on the 27th at the Civic Center here in town. And it's 8:30 until 2:30. We'll have some pretty skilled and knowledgeable speakers there. The Attorney General, for one, Josh Stein, will be visiting us. And also Faces in Recovery, Donald McDonald, who's pretty well known in the recovery community. He'll
been to
be
Sampson several times, I think.
He has. It's quite a story. It's a story of addiction in his family when he was young, and then recovery and what you can do with that. So I think it helps to instill hope in others that you can make a difference. You can change your lifestyle and be on a pathway of recovery.
We're going to take our first break. Gentlemen, when we come back, I want to kind of dig a little bit more into this and talk about some of those corridors, if you will, that often leads folks toward that area of addiction, not only into one substance, but many substances. We'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking with two folks that you need to know more about, and you need to know these folks. We'll be back in a moment.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. We've got a lot of content to cover today. We're talking about a very important subject for you, for someone in your family, for someone you know, for someone you may have heard of. It deals with addiction, and particularly opioid addiction. BG Kennedy is with us, and BG is the president or chairman of the Sampson County Substance Abuse Coalition. And we also have with us today Eddie Barnes. Eddie, you work that area of spirituality, and also the part of the scientific piece is kind of a combination. And when we talked a little bit off air a while ago, I thought it was interesting how you laid that out, that there are overlaps. Sometimes we have to say, well, maybe science does have a role to play here, or somebody needs to have the conviction, the religious conviction and faith that they can do something individual. Help us kind of feel our way through that a little bit, because oftentimes we'll look at one thing and think we're dealing only with opioids. Mm-hmm. And it could start out with a glass of wine. Mm-hmm. And I've had friends that, couldn't drink a glass of wine, couldn't even be around a glass of wine. And then, I had Pastor David Chestnut on, and he reflected on some folks that he had worked with at Open Door Ministries. And I thought, it's very interesting, because sometimes the family needs to understand what that battle is. So I'm gonna segue that to you, and then BG can pull in some information as well.
I think one of the biggest things that we can't do is paint addiction with a broad brush. No different than anything else in life, it is going to be a case-to-case scenario. There are some people that I believe are just struggling in the sense of they've tried something, they got caught on something, and maybe their personality isn't naturally addictive. They're just the substance they got a hold of is super strong into their life. Nicotine and meth and things of that nature, it's real easy to get caught in a snare. Not saying they're the exact same thing, but it's easy to caught in a snare. Where on the flip side, if you just have an addictive personality, like myself, like I said, I struggle with alcohol. Alcohol is not naturally addictive. It's not a substance that has an addictive part to it, but I have an addictive personality. I have to realize that. So there's a side of it that you can go in science and go, there are people that are actually more inclined to be addicted to things. You can go through and find that in families that have alcoholism from generation to generation. Some people in spiritual side say it's a generational curse. My family was an example of that. My dad was an alcoholic, and then ultimately it came down to me for a season in my life. But they also say scientifically you can look and go, you can see that in people's DNA, and you can see these things. So we can't ignore the fact that there's real world issues that are the physical, no different than these tables. And then there's spiritual issues, and the things of the heart and the things of the soul that you have to confront both. You can't broad brush it and go, well, it's just this or it's just that. You have to interact with an individual. And every individual I personally interact with, I have to realize they have a soul, they have eternity, they have a responsibility in this world, and I have to address all of those things at the same time. So I can't just look and go, you know what, we're gonna sit here and pray these things away. And I've had individuals whose family members or parents are super spiritual, and they'll come to CR and they'll be like, man, my family gets on to me for trying to come to this thing. They say we should just pray it away. I believe in prayer. I believe prayer is a strong force. I believe God answers prayer in mighty ways, no ifs, ands, or buts. But I also believe that God's given us logic, given us ability to see things that we can acknowledge, and given us the tools to help people. We're here to give life and life more abundant is what I was promised through the Gospels. So what do? I don't just pray it away. I spend time with you. We're told to make disciples. Well, I don't make disciples by just praying these disciples into existence. I make disciples by praying for you and walking with you through this journey. And these journeys can look nasty, they can look bad, they can get frustrating on our point where these people show up and then disappear and show up and disappear. But the thing is I wasn't promised a pretty ride, I was promised a ride that gives glory to God. So I look at both sides. There are people I'm going to run into that have a mental illness of addiction. They are inclined more than others, all the way ingrained into their DNA, they're inclined more than others to be addicted to certain things. And when you if you already have that personality, and then you add in things like opioids, or you add in things like meth, or crack, anything that's already got a more strong tendency to draw addiction, now this person has a double whammy. Natural inclination to addiction, and then a very super addictive drug or whatever. Now you have to go in, you have to handle both of these things while also helping them build up a foundation of who they really are, because addiction steals everything away from you. It hurts all the family members around you, but it steals your identity and steals who you are. So we have to go into this going, let's handle this in a mental illness way. Why is there this addiction problem? Why are you inclined to do these things? What, as we put it in CR, what hurts, habits, and hangups are you dealing with that are causing all these things to come forth? Because if I just go, stop doing it, we're praying for you, you got to stop doing it, but I don't give them some kind of foundation, I'm not giving them any way to succeed, I'm actually setting them up for failure. So I encourage people to pray strongly for your loved ones about what's going on with their life, but also be a person that's loving, that's kind. And loving and kind doesn't always have to look like, being nice. And one of the biggest things that we see a lot of times is because of the shame of addiction in all these different forms, is we see people that ultimately become enablers. They want to help their family so much they enable them to continue. Lovingness and kindness doesn't always have to look like it's okay. It has to be also the hand that goes, there's an issue. When I struggled with alcohol, I had a roommate that I was very close to, and he was one of the ones that God single-handedly used to save my life, because he loved me and he was kind to me. He sat me down one day and looked at me and said, "You're ruining your life, and you're better than this, and you need to get your life right." That's love. That's kindness. if we are the people that go, I love this individual, to ignore the possible repercussions for everything they're doing, I think it's not love and it's not kindness. It's ultimately feeding into their worst case scenario. So love and kindness looks like us going to them going, I believe in you, I'm here with you, I may not understand it. And I think that's where a lot of people come from. I don't understand it, so I don't know what to do. Love them by saying, you're better than this. Love them by not enabling them to continue. Be kind enough to understand that when the struggle is at its heaviest, they're not just weak. They're not just, because people get the mindset of, well, if they just want to quit, they'll quit. It's not an illness.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. Or when they hit rock bottom, whatever that may be.
But rock bottom can look different to everybody else. And being truly loving, you don't want them to hit rock bottom. Again, from my personal perspective on several things, my dad was very, very addicted to alcohol all of his life, and also did other drugs his life, and I remember those things. My father died from cancer a few years ago, but this was one of those things that between all the drug abuse and cancer, there was a time in his life that he gave his life to Christ, and it was hard for him to get away from some of these things. And the thing is helping him walk through this journey personally, I saw a lot of the thing of, you didn't choose this. There was a lot of hurt in you that drove you to something else. And the thing is we ignore the hurt that's in people. We ignore the problem that's in people. And what we try to do our best is we try to sit back and go, well, we'll pray for them, or we're gonna condemn them, or we're gonna excommunicate. We treat them like the lepers of the Bible. Christ embraces these people and go, oh, I died for that. And the way to help them see that isn't just shoving it down their throat. It's coming alongside of them, picking them up when they're in the dirt, going, I hurt like you hurt. I know the pain. I know there's things going on up here you can't verbalize. So the way you do it is you fall into a substance. If you don't realize that both of these things are necessary to give them the gospel and love and care and kindness, but also look and go, I acknowledge that you have an issue I may not understand. And it may be an issue inside mentally that we have to attack along with giving you spirituality. I think you set a lot of people up to failure. You put expectations on them that weighs them down even more, and it sends them right back. And we've seen success when we come alongside of people and we don't pre-assume that, oh, you'll just get better. Nah, I can't assume that your convictions are like mine. I have to help you learn your convictions because I have to help you learn your identity. And those are the things that I think we miss. I think we get in one or two camps. It's a mental illness. Let the mental illness community handle it. We'll send them to a counselor, or we'll send them to this, or we'll send them to that.
Give them a pill to fix another pill.
Exactly. We'll put a Band-Aid over a scar that's up your arm, or we're on the other side, and we have the two camps in Christianity. It's not a mental illness. Let's not say it's an illness because, I've heard arguments, well, saying that it's an illness is like saying that it's a cancer. It is up in here. Just because I believe it's a mental illness. I believe it's a sickness that people deal with. Again, not everybody, but there are groups of people that deal with it. So on the spiritual aspect, we can't just lump everything, again, broad brush. We go into that person's individual scenario. And how do I, as a faith-based person, let's say you're going, well, I don't understand the mental illness side, but I am spiritual. I'm a person that does pray. I am a person that goes to church. Say one of your viewers goes, I understand that aspect because that's who I am. How do I help? Well, if you know someone that's there, again, pray. Don't stop praying. I'm not saying prayer, pray all the time. But also sit down and be there for them. Let them see the love of Christ and the life more abundant that we're promised, because they don't see that right now in their life. Most of them don't understand that right now. The only life that they understand is when I'm in pain, I fix it with this. And they might even not be able to verbalize that they're in pain. They're going, well, I'm just looking to get high. No, they're looking to get high because they're looking to run from something. And we found when we start attacking what is that pain, what is that hurt in your life? When we start attacking that, again, in the natural and in the spiritual, we see people have a better foundation of, okay, this is how I get away from that problem. So,
DG, I think Eddie raises a huge observation, and I'll pose the question to you. the coalition that you lead in this area is made up of a broad range of folks from different backgrounds: law enforcement, public health, social services, extension, all kinds of backgrounds. Do you think that folks on that coalition are
You come out to replace a bad sensor, and that has a 5-year commitment to my contract, and you don't tell me? Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping homes secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're talking about addiction, addictive substances. We're talking about things that you need to know about. I want to thank both of our guests for being with us today. Eddie Barnes, I want to thank him for his commentary just on that one segment here dealing with the issue of individual addiction and how that focuses, and also sharing some things that he's gone through in his life. As we come back, B.G. Kennedy's with us. And B.G., I want to kind of segue this question to you that relates to the coalition that you lead in the county, which is somewhat of a multifaceted, different professions on there, from law enforcement to behavioral specialists to people with public health, social services, and others. As you listen to Eddie, do you think that folks in that coalition, knowing that you have a background in clinical background in addiction, do you think that the folks on that collective of people understand what we're totally getting with here, or do they kind of, should I say, silo themselves in their own particular profession?
We all come from our own perspectives and have our own story and our history with things, JW. But there's a lot of research now to support addiction science. So I think there's a lot of education that we have left to share with folks on the coalition and folks in public. You know, Eddie was saying earlier, talking about addictive personality, we all have risk for addiction. If I use a substance for whatever reason, and all behaviors are driven by needs, right? If I use a substance and it's particularly good to me, it does something for me, I'm at risk of repeating that. Otherwise, I'm not going to. If I use alcohol for the first time and my face turns red and I feel nauseated, I'll never have a problem with alcohol. But if I'm nervous in a crowd and I use alcohol and I relax and I find that I can talk better to other people, that puts me at significant risk of continuing that. And if I continue that substance, alcohol, I'll become addicted to it. And so I think that you were talking to about the needs of people. People who are struggling with addiction, they certainly need support, and they need connections to people who aren't using. If all of my friends use all the time, it's very difficult for me to change that. And so again, I think your question was about the members of the coalition, you know, and where they come from. From all walks of life and all different experiences. I do think that with opioids, it touches us all, but addiction touches us all. We used to hide that, I think, more so than now, and I'm thankful about that. We're talking about, and there are organizations, the churches, in town are certainly talking about the needs of the people. Because if we can help meet the needs and help remove the temptation, the being around the substance, we're much more likely to enter a time of recovery.
Eddie, just to kind of, I want to segue back to you with a quick question that BG just kind of brought forward. Does a person that has addiction, in your experience, is that something they always have that they will just deal with the rest of their life, and they have to understand that that's something they're going to deal with? Is any kind of panacea where all of a sudden, oh, I could, you know, I may be addicted to alcohol, so I'm going to go sit down in the bar with 50 other people, and while they drink, I'm going to drink ice water? I mean, that's probably too simple.
Yeah. It's again, those things are case-to-case scenarios. For me personally, like I said, for my addiction was alcohol. It doesn't bother me if I'm around people that may drink. I don't go out to find those people. Don't get me wrong. I have family members. When I'll go to a family reunion, they'll be drinking wine or beer. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. I know another individual who's been clean from opioids independently, and they still at times have there's something still simmering underneath it.
It's almost like a calling, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's So when it comes to different drugs, I think there's that different scenario, as you were saying, what needs are fulfilled. And I think it's one of those things that we have to find for that individual, what's the best guard rails that we can put? What's the best way we can help defend you along with you helping you defend you? What's the ways we can do that? If you're a person that alcohol is a struggle and you know any alcohol is a struggle, then do your best to not just abstain from doing it, but getting away from it. I know me, I'll never have another drink again because I know I wasn't a person that just had a drink. I was a person that finished a bottle. But I'm also a person that now being removed from it, I don't mind sitting around someone and I'm not going to force my conviction on them. But with opioids, with meth, with other kinds of strong drugs that are especially illegal in general, or some of them, let's be real again, when we're saying about opioids, some of them are just painkillers that are in someone's cabinet. Our best interest to help those people stay away from them isn't just, going, hey, stop doing it and don't get around them anymore. It's over and above of going, what ways can we help make sure, you're not there? I know an individual that struggled with opioid addiction that had some kind of surgery. I can't remember all the details, but the individual wanted non-opioid painkillers, and those are sometimes far and few between, and they're not as strong. And this individual decided to deal with that, and it was much more painful in the long run, but out of fear of getting back in that addiction. Yeah,
it's understanding.
And they got away from it. And those are the things we have to be prepared to help those individuals however they need those helps and those guardrails around them.
Absolutely. Movement helps pain, we know that.
Yeah.
Exercise helps pain.
BG, are you seeing more of that going on where people are trying not to use it because of a pre-existing addiction and they're literally trying to suffer through pain? Is that something that's really happening? Or
I think they certainly need to be aware, and they need to communicate that with their physician. If I'm someone who's had a problem with opioids in the past, I know I've got a genetic predisposition for that, genetic risk, if you will. So you were talking earlier about if you're a user at any point, are you always a user? Well, I know the risk. I know that if I try it, I might like it too much, so I don't go there. So if someone's having a surgery and knows there's pain to bear with, they certainly would need, if they've had previous problems, to communicate that with the physician so that there can be a pain management plan put in place.
Eddie, I want one thing I want to cover real quick, a question. So to be clear, if a person has an alcohol issue, sounds to me it would be paramount on the part of the family or significant other not to necessarily just bring that person into environments that is alcohol.
You should never do that.
No.
I'm not going to put myself in a risky situation if I know.
Or brings a loved one into that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you see that happening where people say, well, look, I don't have an alcohol addiction, so that's his problem, is not my problem. Does people really look at it?
Yeah, there's definitely times of that scenario. Again, going through CR, I have individuals who their family's addicted to whatever. And they come in and they go, man, I'm addicted to some of these similar things and I'm trying to get away from it. And they'll tell their family, hey, I'm trying to go through recovery. And the family's like, so what? Right. They don't care about it, so they put their family, more of their family at risk.
But that's not an enabling piece when someone's trying to keep, if they don't have 2 or 3 beers or a glass of wine in front of somebody that's alcoholic, that's not enabling that person. That's just good common sense.
Yeah. Stop putting that temptation in front of them.
It's recognizing that they're struggling and that they need help.
There's a selfishness when it comes to some of these things of, well, that person should just be able to deal with it. I think that's as ridiculous as looking at someone that has cancer and going, well, you don't need chemo, you should just learn how to deal with it. No, chemo is in the idea of cancer is trying to irradiate and destroy this. Well, the only way to irradiate and destroy some of these addiction problems that, let's say it's alcohol, that's widely available. The only way to somehow eradicate and get rid of these things is to be willing to go, everything around them is gone. You know what I mean? We have to get it away from them. In my household, after my addiction with alcohol's not allowed at my house.
And you don't go to events that have alcohol.
Yeah, no, not at all. And The few times I went to baseball games, but it's not like I can control that. I can't walk into the stadium and be like, y'all need to cut that off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you don't have to go to the garden.
There you go, yep.
I'm going to butt in and interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I want to encourage folks with alcohol. A lot of times folks use alcohol before they're of age to make the decision legally. Mm-hmm. The longer you delay first use of alcohol, the less likely you are to have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. So, I don't deny the possibility that my children may someday choose to use alcohol, but they're not going to do it with my blessing before they're 21 years old, and they're not going to do it with my blessing at that point. I don't agree that it's necessary.
Well, we see the results of that not happening, BG, mm-hmm. with everything from car accidents to teenagers binging at college events and that kind of thing. And when I see that, it tells me something's off the rails.
Binge drinking causes a change in your brain. And so if you binge drink and think, oh, I don't do it but once a month, recognize you're causing a change in brain behavior that could lead to a substance use disorder, an addiction. The language changing, but the same stuff.
And the folks on the coalition that you meet with regularly and look at ways that we can challenge this in a society, not only in law enforcement. I've seen some changes in law enforcement over the past few years too, looking more at individual behaviors and what that means, how they respond to that, how they deal with that. Historically, it was just, cuffs, jail, see you after DTs. And folks would go through that, DTs.
Which are very dangerous.
Exactly,
and
in a locked up jail facility.
And
I mean, I'm talking back in the 60s and 70s. It was horrific.
The broad brush approach to any addiction is the worst thing that we could ever do. If we assume all addiction's the same, it's like assuming that every person is the same in every scenario. There are some people that may need to be thrown in jail, and there's some people that may need to just be sat down and really talk to. The problem with the justice system, and nothing against cops, is we have to be balanced with justice too, and those are things that we have to think about when we go into all these things. There may be a grandma or a grandpa that's addicted to opioids. They don't realize it because they've done pain medicine so much, but they need help too. And that's the thing, is we can't marginalize this to the young. This is a wide spectrum of
I think it's growing fastest among the elderly right now, the opioid addiction, because they don't recognize that they can have a problem because they may be using it as prescribed and then adding a little bit. That's dangerous. Don't ever do that.
We're going to take a break and we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Eddie Barnes. We're talking with B.G. Kennedy. We're talking about a subject that most likely is impacting your life one way or the other, and that's substance abuse and addiction. Stay tuned, call a friend. These are things you need to know more about.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. We Should Know is on the air each and every Tuesday at 2:30. You can pick us up on Star Communications Channel 16. Also, WCLN Radio, simulcast with WCLN, a summation in the Sampson Weekly newspaper. We're talking about addiction, addictive substances, and kind of build around that parameter of opioid addiction, which is still a huge issue. Eddie Barnes, who is a person that is heavily involved in the Celebrate Recovery program here in the county. You are a recovery coach, and you also work very closely from the faith-based area with the Clinton Community Church. And of course, B.G. Kennedy, a lot of folks know your name, B.G. You are the chair of the Sampson County Substance Abuse Coalition. You've been involved in public schools, been right here in Duplin and Sampson County for a number of years in education. And you've kind of taken on that mantle of helping lead this organization to what could be, at the best and foremost, would be recovery and to move away from addiction, but even before that, is just getting them information. So the 27th, there's an event coming up that both you guys are going to be involved in that deals with opioids. So tell us about that and remind us again, if I need more information or our viewers need more information, who do we contact? Give us a number.
Absolutely, JW. We are having the first Sampson County Opioid Summit. It's called Scope for Hope. You can register by going to sampsoncoalition.org. There's a link that Eddie has put up there. He's managing the media part of that, the social media. If you prefer to have more information by phone, you can call 910-592-1131, extension 4240, and speak to Sydney Smith. That's Luke Smith to most of us. Everybody knows her as Luke, but Luke's managing the phone calls for that event. I encourage the public to come. It's a free event. If you register, we'll promise you a meal. We believe we'll have extra food too, so you don't have to register. Please come. You can show up that morning and register right then. But for us to get a count, we'd love for you to give us your information.
Well, hopefully after this show that you won't have any meals left because it'll overflow.
We'll add some. We can accommodate 400 people, and we're looking forward to a big crowd to hear the Attorney General Josh Stein speak, and also Donald McDonald, who is quite well known across the country and is involved in Faces and Voices of Recovery.
So Eddie, with Donald McDonald, and I know him and I've heard his presentation. He's one of those people that is, as he would say, I guess, he's recovering from addiction. Is it one of those things that you're always recovering from addiction? You know what that issue is. So as we were going to break a while ago, we talked about you don't want to be around it. You don't need to be around it. Is one of the things the church, that organization, is that, I guess, one of the key points that it offers is that you offer a sanctuary for folks. Is that a reasonable way to try to describe that? There's a sanctuary here. You don't have to worry about folks being around you, or hey, how about another beer or whatever?
For us with Clinton Community Church and with Celebrate Recovery being held at Clinton Community Church, we try to make it not just a sanctuary of, hey, you can get away from the people that maybe help entice you into that addiction. We also make it a sanctuary for you to share your feelings, your mentality, your heart, and what's going on. When we have our Celebrate Recovery meetings, which are every Tuesday night at 6:30 at Clinton Community Church, we give there's ample time for small groups. We split up at times between the men and the women because what the women are struggling with may be different from the men. And it's not just a group of people who are addicted. We have wives of people who are addicted. They're hurting. They don't know how to deal with their spouse's addiction. We have husbands who may have went through addiction and it's put a strain on their marriage, and they want to fix their marriage somehow, but they need to fix the things internally. Because again, addiction doesn't just rob you of the sense of, oh, now I have to do these things, so it takes my money, it takes my time. It robs you of everything. Your identity, it can rob you of your marriage, it can rob you of everything of your life. And what we want to do when we get together and be that sanctuary through Celebrate Recovery, through Clinton Community Church, is not only you come and go, I can get away from that world, but also you can come and go, here's my hurt. Here's the darkest parts of me that at times I may be afraid to share, but I need these things confronted.
Without shame.
Without shame, with utter embrace, with utter, you know what? You're not abnormal. You're not horrible. You're not a monster.
And you're around people that can feel your pain.
Exactly. And the thing is what for me personally, as we lead and as the people that help lead this, which is Caleb Carter and Marianne Carter, who help do great leadership in CR with me and are right there next to me at all the things I do. They understand on their own personal level, but they also understand, and when we go on the spiritual side, we're all sinners. Sin is sin to us. God looks at sin as a level playing field. That's the reason when Christ died, it covers all the things equally.
Amen.
So the thing for us is, I don't care if you come in and you go, I'm a 20-year addict. Okay, that's sin. Christ died for that. He can fix that too. Again, we handle with the mental illness side of it. Why did you start getting there? But we also handle the spiritual side of it. Freedom comes through the blood of Christ. So the thing is it's a sanctuary not of just, I get away from the environment I'm used to, but it's a sanctuary of the mind. It's a sanctuary of the soul and the heart. It's a sanctuary of going, I can come in here and be vulnerable. Because the thing is when you come in and you're like that, that's when we get to those things. And to me, one way I was taught by a great leader in my life is to just get you to stop is me picking off the fruit of the tree. Just leave that scenario. I'm picking the fruit off. I'd rather chop the tree down to the roots, and the roots are, where's that hurt? Let's get you.
The core problem.
Yeah, let's get you in a sanctuary where you can feel open enough that we can get to those roots.
What need was unmet.
Yeah, what need was, and we're there. And the thing is we have to be balanced. The coalition and the opioid thing that we're talking about and the things that we do at CR, there are all these different aspects and all these different things. One of the biggest things is, if you're a person that goes, I'm hurting because someone else is using, you need to be educated. Coming and listening to Donald McDonald, coming and listening to the Attorney General, coming and listening to the group. We're going to have a board discussion that you can come and ask questions from people from East Point and from mental health and all these different avenues of people that deal with addiction on the coalition and even beyond. If you come and go, man, I'm hurting because someone else is addicted and I don't know how to handle them. Come and ask questions, because educating the people that are left to pick up the pieces are some of the biggest things we can do. And that's the reason I think one of the greatest things that we do, just in general, if you go on the spiritual side, isn't us just going, well, we're gonna handle the person that's dealing with addiction. No, we want to handle the person that is married to the person dealing with addiction, who's the son or daughter of someone that's dealing with addiction, who's the mom or dad with someone dealing with addiction. And we see a lot of those people come through our doors. And the thing is, for us, is when we see those people, it's not, oh, we treat you different because you don't have addiction. We look at them and go, how can we help you? Because you're hurting somewhere.
That's explanation I just underlined twice here, because I think it's oftentimes, BG, we don't see that. We don't see folks understanding that the people that are in the family related to mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, spouses, they don't have a problem. And oftentimes they go, well, again, that's not my problem.
It's a family system problem.
Exactly, it is.
Always.
It's everyone's problem. And
Always.
to magnify that even larger. So
absolutely.
How with the coalition moving forward, this event, the 27th, is one of many events. But if folks want to get involved, either the coalition, understand more, or Eddie, if they want to get up with you, let's again share some phone numbers that they can reach out. Is this, and I'll add this as well, is this something, when I look, Eddie, at what you do, or BG, you're being a clinically certified substance counselor, when I look at that, do we need one or two or more of those in each one of the churches in this county?
I think having a person that is educated on the mental illness side and also the substance addiction side is important, and not just in the churches, but I mean, it would be great if they don't already, some of the counselors in higher, like middle school or high school and things like that. Again, I saw a father that struggled with addiction all my life. So to have someone that can come alongside of a child and go, look, man, you're not the problem, you don't, and I've never felt that way. Don't get me wrong, but I know that there's feelings there. But East Point is a great is a great place to find out more information on getting educated. It's not just for the people that go, East Point's for the ones that are already dealing with addiction. No, there's a liaison to Sampson County through East Point named Melissa, who we tried to convince to come here, but she got nervous, I guess. But she's
actually out of state.
Yeah, she's out of state. There you go. She ran that far away.
Yeah.
But she's the one who helped connect me to get the certified through what I did with the recovery coach. And you can call up there at 1-800-913-6109 or go to eastpoint.net and find a way to connect. Ask them if they have any classes going on. I personally get emails from Melissa talking about education. I think you get those things too, of what's going on in our local area that can educate you more on addiction. They aren't just a tool for the addicted. They're a tool for the families of the addicted. And most of these things are free. There's a lot of stuff that they
do a monthly education series
they do
here at the Wellness Center.
And they help teach people, and it's free. Come out and learn. For me, if you want more information just to get in contact with Celebrate Recovery, if you go, I know someone that is dealing with addiction and I'm hurting and I don't know how to handle it, or if you are a person of addiction or want to help, you can email me at Eddie, EDDIE, at ccchurchnc.org, or you can call Clinton Community Church at 592-3624. and just and get in contact with me that way if you want more information. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
BG,
Yes.
quick wrap because we're running out of time. So
Right.
I'm going to give you a quick wrap. here.
Right. So I'll just add on to Eddie. If you're interested in learning more about addiction, we have a program at the Community College in Human Services. We do have a substance abuse class. We're looking at the possibility of a certification program upcoming. If you're interested in that, 910-900-4020.
Okay, and we'll try to get those numbers out to folks, and hopefully everything will work. I want to thank both of you for being here. Hey, I got an idea that we might be talking again soon. This is the kind of subject you can't encapsulate into 50 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.